That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. Ah.
Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of the After Buzz podcast. My name is Nico Jimin, your host of the After Buzz, and with me is the man of the hour, Buzz Adams.
Hello.
Hello. On a Tuesday, just spoke to Kerry King.
I did, yes.
How'd it go?
Great. He's coming, doing his solo stuff, but also some Slayer songs as part of the lineup on August 25th, County Coliseum.
Nice.
Along with Lamb of God and Mastodon, Kerry King. And then just a few weeks after that, Slayer is getting together to do just a very few shows. But they're not getting back together. They're not touring.
Okay.
Just a few shows.
I have a friend, Anthony Bettis. He's a comic here in town as well. He's a really good comic. That's kind of a transplant. He was already a really good comic. The one Dustin Yabata's best friend. He's always his opener. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he
ex-con, right?
Yes, he did. Well, he is. Yeah, I mean, he has a famous story about robbing banks. But he is such a big Slayer fan. I think the last time they were here,
like he just loves Slayer.
It was the last time they were here. They were playing. It was probably 6 years ago.
No, maybe.
It was them, Lamb of God, and somebody else. Mm-hmm. But anyways, he was such a big fan that he was...
bloody infanticide, maybe?
Did you just make that up?
Yeah.
You just... Hey, I have this... I found a weird Reddit through an article that was discussing it, and... they were kind of weird. The article was about, like, look at this weird Reddit. It's called Rate Me.
The Nirvana song?
No. Do you know what Reddit subreddits are?
I'm uncomfortable with the title of that topic.
It's exactly what you think it is. Get your naked body rated online. So
did you say rate me?
Rated.
Oh, with a T. I thought you said rape me. Like,
shut the
I swear to God,
door.
I thought that's what you said.
Okay, so no,
yeah,
I was saying
was a popular. This was like an early internet thing where you would put your picture up and people would. It was called Hot or Not.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
That sounds like what you're describing.
But it's now. Everybody would assume nude selfies are the realm of the private space, like your phone and locked away. But now people are taking naked selfies and putting them online, most of them without their face.
Okay.
And just asking strangers for people to say what comments on them, on their body. And
either you've got like through the roof self-esteem or you have very low
That's
self-esteem.
what was super interesting in this article, because the author reached out to several women who post on there.
Why do you need that kind of validation?
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's that hit of for some people, it was validation. So for other people, it was like a kink. For other people, it was, this validation thing where they were not getting it in real life.
I think there are some people who make their body such a priority and spend so much time in the gym. And I can understand that. You would want to show it off. You know, it's just like if you bought a Bentley, you'd want to show it off.
Some of the people on here, it's regular bodies. It's not just good-looking bodies.
So I could understand somebody with a really good-looking body, but other than that, are you a masochist?
Then other people were saying, well, I just like the conversations that I would have with people through, whether it was like a creative outlet, my captions and this and that. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. You always say on the air when the topic of nudes comes up that you're like, don't put anything on the internet that you wouldn't want seen in 1,000 years, right?
That you wouldn't want seen in any time frame.
Right. So I thought that was interesting. All right. Well, for today's topic, we're going to get into it real quick. I know we had a discussion about the history in the past last time. So I was thinking more of a futuristic topic.
Okay.
Yeah? That sounds pretty interesting?
Sure.
Okay. So, and this kind of goes with your story about the downwinders.
The people who lived in New Mexico in the Tularosa Valley, right after the Trinity test, the number of health complications and the number of people who got cancer that they believe was caused by the radiation fallout.
That is exactly it.
Quadrupled, man.
All right. So there is a picture that I came across of this thing called the elephant's foot. And it is one of the most dangerous objects in the entire world.
Yeah, if an elephant stepped on you, that'd be really dangerous.
Can you see the kind of picture to the left of it?
Nah, I can't make it out.
It's molten slag from a reactor core.
Oh.
And this is
that's like the leftover byproduct or whatever.
So what it is, it's a mixture of concrete, sand, core shielding, and nuclear waste.
Is that extremely, extremely radioactive?
It is so radioactive that 300 seconds with it is fatal in front of it or being near it. Now this is the one from the Chernobyl disaster, and what scientists call this mixture of slag, molten slag that comes out, corium, because it's this mixture of sand, concrete, shielding, and nuclear waste. And there's only been like 4 or 5 documented cases of corium.
What do they do? What do they do with it? How do they dispose of it?
They don't. Well, you know what? Okay, I take that back. The one in the Chernobyl is still there, I believe. Like under the dome, under the whatever shielding.
Doesn't that stuff have a half-life of like 10,000 years or something?
Yes. Even though, so just 30 seconds would be enough to give you dizziness and fatigue. At 2 minutes, you would hemorrhage. And at 4, you'd be vomiting, diarrhea, and fever. It does lose its potency over time. The other one's 3 Mile incident on 3 Mile Island.
That left an elephant's foot?
That left an elephant's foot. And the Fukushima reactor disaster actually left 3. And those are the only time. So I don't know what would you do with them, but it's kind of an interesting tale of the unknowns.
There are known knowns.
There are
known unknowns. Then there are unknown unknowns.
Yes. This is the famous Donald Rumsfeld quote from the Iraq War. But it's true. The things we don't know that we don't know about. I mean, those are the things you wouldn't even imagine.
That quote actually is a very thought-provoking
It
thought.
absolutely is.
People made fun of Donald Rumsfeld at the time, but it's true. You have known knowns, but you also have unknown knowns and known unknowns and unknown unknowns.
And I think it's particularly in science, when we're trying to advance things and you're dealing with these unexpected potential results, like your downwinders. I mean, that was the first nuclear test.
So I didn't get into this when I told you about it, but it's in the article that I wrote at KLAQ.com. A couple of the Manhattan Project scientists, as early as 41, had written that there would probably be so much fallout that doing a test would be too dangerous for any civilian population.
Really?
Yeah.
So they already had.
They knew.
Known.
This was a known.
A known.
Well, maybe not. Maybe it was a.
I don't know. I don't think they understood fallout that well because they hadn't actually had an explosion in the environment where wind and dust particles would have been a factor. Do you know what I mean?
Where is my
one more. There you go.
I actually wrote about this. So the infant mortality rate in New Mexico and the Tularosa Valley, this was in the 40s, and most of these people were farmers or lived, in rural communities. The infant mortality rate before the test was 38.3 per thousand. That jumped up to 100.8 deaths per 1,000. That's according to the Tularosa Basin Downwinders Consortium. Two Manhattan Project scientists, Otto Frisch and Rudolf Pierlis, I don't know how you pronounce his name, wrote before, a few years before the Trinity test, that such a test could not be done, quote, without killing large numbers of civilians. So they knew that it was going to be dangerous and lethal. Maybe not the same day, but definitely was going to have negative outcomes.
Even then, I don't even think they knew the extent to how. It sounds like they knew that they were dealing with a dangerous substance.
Remember in Oppenheimer, there was a moment where
I haven't seen it yet.
You haven't seen Oppenheimer?
No, it seems long.
It's long.
Yeah, and I know the story very well.
Yeah,
I read one of those biographies about Oppenheimer.
There's a scene in there where Matt Damon, who plays a general,
General Groves.
General Groves finds out, wait a minute, you're telling me there's a non-zero chance that doing this nuclear reaction could destroy the Earth.
Right.
And Oppenheimer had to say, well, we don't think so, but
you're right. There is a non-zero chance of that happening.
And there was a scenario under that when they talked about in the movie. It's like, well, what do we do? And it's like, we tell the Nazis that this is what's going to happen and trust that they don't do it.
All right. So do we continue doing things and without maybe knowing the potential ramifications?
Well, you'd be paralyzed if you didn't. I mean, just as far as on the personal level or as
on the personal level, I think it's harder to justify when you try and. I mean, as a person who might experience the fallout from a nuclear reaction, you would say, "Of course, I don't want that to happen. I might be affected." But when you think about the societal level, I think that's what you're asking, and for the point of civilization to move forward,
you've got to take some chances.
Right.
If you never took a chance, if I didn't want to take any chance of getting in a car wreck, I'd never get in a car. If I really wanted,
you never get anywhere.
But I'd never get anywhere.
Or you could walk.
Yeah, I could still get in a car wreck if I was walking, though, except I wouldn't have a car.
Right? Yeah.
I'd never leave the house. But I might even want to play it safer than that. Accidents happen around the house. I would never leave my bed.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean about paralyzed? Yeah, taking risks has always been a part of human progress.
Progress. Yeah, that's the word I was thinking of.
I hate to think of fallout that killed Americans and as an acceptable risk. But apparently it was. And listen, they were really the Oppenheimer movie made it seem like the Nazis were very close to getting this technology.
Well,
that would have been game over.
Even these reactors I'm talking about, these reactors are much newer.
Yeah.
And yet still there was this leftover biohazard that is probably never going to leave the world and is probably going to be like this stain, like these elephant feet are going to be kind of there forever.
There's another term for slag that's a biohazard. It's your mom.
Mom, yeah. You idiot. But that also makes me think of something else. Because in the news, you might see that scientists have now been able to control fusion reactions. So fusion power might be a thing in the future. And the way
isn't that like the holy grail? Like once you can cause
more energy
from by fusing,
right?
That is a clean, safe alternative,
right? Because the only byproduct is helium and energy, and your so the sun. That's how the sun gets
revolutionize.
Absolutely.
And there are countries like France that more than half of their power nationwide is nuclear in nature.
Yeah,
it's not the case in the United States because.
Panic. We got a little scared.
Yeah, you're not old enough to remember, but I can remember when people would show up, celebrities would show up and protest against nuclear power plants.
Yeah.
And they'd get arrested, and it was like, like a badge of honor.
Right.
I was out there protesting.
It was
against,
cool to protest against nuclear power at that point, but it still is effective.
Nuclear power is really bad if something like a Chernobyl or a Fukushima incident happens.
Well, the worst part is that the waste. That it's not waste. It's not a clean process.
So is fusion? Is there any leftover waste?
Helium.
Just helium.
Yeah, pretty much.
So everybody'd be walking around talking like this, but other than that, we'd be okay.
Well, you could even use the helium and fuse the helium eventually, and that might be able to power more. But what about these unintended consequences that the only way they're able to do it right now? How do you get anything that's as hot as the sun on Earth? Wouldn't that mean you have a substance so hot it could burn through anything on Earth? The answer is yes. It's a very hot plasma that they contain using...
The elephant's foot, you mean?
No. This is the fusion reactors.
Okay.
They get this very hot plasma, which is basically like a gas.
Well, how long does the slag remain hot?
For the elephant, we're talking about two things now.
Yeah.
Back in the elephant,
the elephant foot.
It's radioactive. I don't know if it's hot necessarily.
Oh, okay.
But this fusion thing, I mean, it's getting hotter than the sun.
The core.
No, we're not talking about the core anymore, or the nuclear reactors. I'm talking about this fusion reaction that scientists have just created.
That gets hot. The fusion reactor.
Yeah, the fusion reactor gets hotter than the sun.
Well, lightning is hotter than the sun. Did you know that?
Yeah. It's probably, well, I didn't know specifically lightning, but if it's a plasma, then that makes sense. Anyways,
you know what else is hotter than the sun?
My whole point is that
Phoenix, Arizona.
They're able to control that plasma with these magnets, and that's the only way they're able to contain it. And so there's probably going to be all kinds of unintended consequences or unknown.
Well, what's your worst case scenario if that thing was not contained?
Is gigantic explosion.
Okay, gigantic explosion.
The size of a hydrogen bomb.
Not a China syndrome situation? Do you know what that was?
Is there a movie?
There was a movie called China Syndrome. It involved nuclear power. It came out when I was too young to have seen it, but I guess the idea was that if there was a certain kind of accident, it would burn right through the earth all the way through and punch a hole out in China. That's what the China Syndrome was based on.
Huh. No, I don't think you'd have to worry about that. But
I didn't see the movie.
Okay. Let's talk.
I saw Silkwood, however.
On our next episode, we're talking about Fallout, the video game and TV show.
Did you get around to watching it?
I did. I watched the first half. Did you watch the whole thing?
I think I watched the whole thing.
Did you like it? Speaking of Fallout and a post-apocalyptic nuclear future.
Yeah. I'm a big Walton Goggins fan. It's weird that this is the role that has people like
talking about him,
calling him a zaddy. It's like, wait a second.
He's been that for way before.
I never heard of anybody refer to Walton Goggins as a zaddy.
All right.
It's like, now you're like the Red Skull from Captain America comics.
You are a ghoul, sir.
Right. You're a ghoul, literally a ghoul. And that's what these women these days like.
I really don't mean that we're going to get into Fallout. I just thought it would be an appropriate conversation after talking about this. But anyways, that's our discussion about nuclear waste.
All right.
I do have a couple of science
Can I bring up
headlines?
Something?
Yeah.
I'm writing a story. I'm in the middle of it right now. This lady that lived in Fort Worth lived with her boyfriend back in 2021. They broke up. And she had been letting him use her car to drive to work. Well, after they broke up, she found out that he had run the toll booth so many times without paying that she owed $17,000 in unpaid toll expenses.
A dick.
Let me tell you. So people loan most people have loaned their car out before, right?
I would assume so.
This has happened to me more than once. I loan the car out to somebody, and then I start getting parking tickets in the mail. So the person I loaned the car to parked illegally, got a ticket, didn't even bother to tell me about the ticket.
I think I know who you're talking about. Is it me?
I don't know.
No, it's not me.
Did you borrow my Thunderbird?
Did I borrow recently? No. But years ago when I got it fixed up.
Yeah, did you ever park illegally and get a ticket and just throw the ticket away? Wait. You can't answer that question without stopping to think about it? Yeah, and I've gotten them like I've...
Probably wasn't me. Probably somebody else.
The nerve. The chutzpah that it takes to borrow a car and it's like, oh, I got a ticket. Well, it's not my problem.
I thought you were talking about the other person who borrows your cars a lot and is
through
notoriously...
Through the years, there have been people that have borrowed the car. Yeah.
I am always above board, sir.
Like if you had borrowed a car of mine and you got a parking ticket,
I would tell you about it.
You would fess up.
Yeah. I'd be like, hey, I got a ticket.
And would you say, hey, I'm going to reimburse you for that ticket, by the way?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, not everybody's like
Or
that.
I'd get high and forget about it. So one of the two. All right. Some science headlines. Scientists discover massive planet as light and fluffy as cotton candy. Not a gas giant.
Fluffy as cotton candy. Sticky too?
WASP 19-3b. Nearly 50% bigger than Jupiter. And
it's a big planet.
And overall density is comparable to that of cotton candy. It's just a hair over 1% of the density of Earth. It's basically a dandelion puffball.
Yeah.
Of a planet.
Could it sustain life?
No, what lives in dandelions? Bees?
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Anti-intoxicant gel keeps alcohol out of the bloodstream. Scientists have discovered a new...
so it keeps you from getting drunk?
Yes.
Who the hell wants that?
I don't know.
It's like when I see the non-alcoholic beers in the beer aisle. I don't get it. Somebody loves the taste of this. If you wanted to
look like you were drinking but not get drunk from it, scientists in Switzerland developed a gel that consists of basically sugar, gold nanoparticles, and a whey protein derived from nanofibers covered in iron atoms. You consume it before drinking.
I think most drinkers would prefer something that does the exact opposite, makes it so you can get drunk off of like one swallow. Save a lot of money, be very economical.
Cheap date.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for science news, and that does it for today's After Buzz. Stick around for more After Buzzes on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Just subscribe to this thing.
Just subscribe.
Subscribe
let other people know, and listen to the Buzz Adams Morning Show Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on KLAQ 95.5.
It's time for another season of the Palmetto Porch, an original podcast from Discover South Carolina. I'm Devin Whitmire. Join me as I get to the heart of what makes South Carolina such a great place to visit by speaking to the locals who make it so special. Premiering December 5th, find the Palmetto Porch wherever you get your podcasts. And for more information about our show, visit scpalmettoporch.com.